briefly, I was doing a film called Last Chance Harvey with Emma Thompson a few years ago. The cinematographer was John DeBorman, who shot this. We became friends while we were shooting, and at one point he said, God, you have these ideas, why don't you direct? And I said, well, if you come up with something, let me know. And I think I went, 3 years ago, maybe next week, I called to wish him a Happy New Year. And I said, again, if you hear of something, let me know. Hung up the phone. 5 minutes later, literally, he said the producer of this, that was also the producer of An Education, which he also shot, Finola Dwyer, called him and said that her second director just fell out. She had a script. If he knows of anybody, he read it. He sent it to me. I read it on the airplane, and that was it. So when I came to it, Maggie was already with it. Courtney was already with it, and Harwood, the writer, had done The Dresser with Albert Finney and with Courtney, and that's how they had met. And Courtney, who still takes credit for this, he said to Harwood, please find something else for Finney and I to do. Finney was supposed to do the Wolf part, but he became ill. So by the time I came on board, Maggie was already with it. I think Harwood wrote it with her in mind. These people have known each other for 50 years. And so all I had to do was, in terms of the principles, I cast Billy Connolly, and he didn't want to do it. He said, who's in it? I said, Maggie Smith, Tom Courtney. He said, legends, I can't do this. He says, I'm not an actor. I says, no, you are. I had seen Mrs. Brown. I said, you held your own with Judi Dench. So he was talked into it, and then I asked Maggie, and it's interesting because I've been doing this for almost 50 years now, and it's always amazed me that directors don't ask the actors that are in the same film that they're directing, who do you think is right for this part? I wish they would more often. So I didn't know Maggie, and I was working here, so I called her in London, and I said, by the way, do you have any idea of who should play the part of Sissy? And without a pause, she said Pauline Collins. And I'm ashamed to say that I hadn't seen Shirley Valentine, which I then saw, and I thought she was extraordinary. So she cast Pauline, and then I talked to them as a group. And I said, I don't think you guys should play characters, quote unquote. I said, I think you should be very close to yourself, and we're all in the same boat. We're all in our 70s. We've all been doing this for 40, 45, 50 years. And we've noticed the changes, not only in ourselves, but in terms of being able to get parts, and what it feels like to be where we are now is the greatest service that we can give the audience. So can we be courageous enough to allow that to be on screen? Maggie plays a diva, but she plays a diva who's no longer a diva. And I Googled these people as much as possible, though I hate the 21st century for some of these things. But in the London Times a few years ago, she was very candid, and she said she wasn't going to act anymore. At the time of the interview, she said she's very open. She said she was getting radiation, chemotherapy. She didn't have the energy anymore, nor the desire, and she said, that's it. And in fact, the interviewer said in that interview, but you have your future, your whole future. And she said, most of it's been. And I said, Maggie, you have to put that line in the film, which she does. And I said, this is what I mean. And the hip is Maggie. Maggie has a bad hip, so it's merged into it. And she didn't act for maybe 2-3 years, and then suddenly she comes back, and she hasn't stopped. Yeah. And that's the movie.